All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the webinar. Thanks for joining. So today we're doing Level Up with Streamlining Take-offs with Revu by myself, Alex, the Technical Sales Manager at AST, Bluebeam Certified Instructor, we're a Bluebeam Gold Partner for the ANZ region. So today we're going to go through a few different things about take-offs, how you can make them a bit easier, and some cool automation links that you can do between Excel and Revu as well. So just before we get started, a couple of things. We will have some time at the end for a Q&A. At the moment, everyone will be muted. I will let the mics open at the end as well if anyone wants to unmute themselves and ask questions. If you have any questions as we go through the session, there should be a Q&A section within the meeting. If you pop them in there, either myself or someone else on the call will also answer the questions if they can. And there's also the chat. Feel free to pop them in there as well, and I'll get to them as I see them. But yeah, we'll also have some time at the end for any questions. Let's go into this. So just a bit more about AST. If you're not aware, we're a software, hardware, and services company. So we're a Bluebeam Gold Partner, Autodesk Gold Partner, ASAP Partner, Dropbox for Business, Microsoft. We're also an Adobe Gold Partner now. We do hardware, Dell, HP, and Lenovo. We're also an Apple authorized reseller. And we do have a services division that do drafting, FM systems, which is the facilities management platform, and GoFMX as well. So they do drafting services, customization services, and a whole range of different things as well. Where can you find help for Bluebeam? Feel free to reach out to myself, Alex at advancedspatial.com.au. Give us a call, 1300 672 888. Within the software, you've got the help menu, which has the help guide within there. The launch review tutorials have some really basic tutorials on some different workflows for Bluebeam. You've also, anyone who's now moved to subscription or has a subscription has access to Bluebeam University, which is an online self-paced training course that Bluebeam provide. It's all free of charge now. It used to be $350 for a year's access to it. So anyone with a subscription now gets access to that for free, which is really cool. Has some really good tutorials on pretty much all of the functionality within Bluebeam. So if you're a new user or you've been using it for years, I recommend going and having a look at that because you'll get a lot of benefit out of it. Cool. So today, what we're going to go through, customizing tools and creating tools to use for your takeoffs, creating tool sets, saving your tools to tool sets. We're going to go through the visual search, how that works and what you can do with it, a bit about the markups list, how to manage that, creating custom columns, exporting that markups list to either Excel, or you could do PDFs as well, but generally for takeoffs, we'll probably be looking at Excel so we can manipulate the data. And also look at quantity link and how you can link your PDFs to an Excel file so that you don't have to translate that data and it all updates live. And then at the end, we should have some time for a Q&A. So yeah, like I said, if anyone has any questions throughout the session, feel free to drop them in the chat or the Q&A section in there, and I will get to them as quickly as I can. I will do my best to keep an eye on them where possible, but I may come back to them as I get to them. So all right, let's jump into it. So let me bring up the review. Cool. Okay, so first thing we're going to go through is customizing tools, creating tools for your takeoffs. So you'll see on the left-hand side in my tool chest, I've got a few different tools created here. So I can do some different sort of things. We're basically just going to go through some really basic examples today. Obviously, everyone's work is different. The things that you're going to be taking off are all different, but I'm just going to do some basic sort of general building sort of things. So whenever you're doing takeoffs and creating measurement tools, the best way to do it is from the measurements panel. First thing you need to do is obviously set a scale for your drawing so that you can take your measurements and we can create some tools with that. So first thing I'm going to do is calibrate this. Obviously it is already calibrated at the moment, but let's just go in here and we'll set a preset scale. I believe this one is a 1:100 drawing. Yes. Cool. So obviously we've got the preset scales where we can do that. So we calibrate them and it could set it like that. Or if you don't have a preset scale, if you hit calibrate here, it'll ask you to select 2 points of a known dimension to calibrate to, which you could use one of your dimensions on your drawings, or if you've got like a scale length on there, you could use that as well. just be careful when you're calibrating. Always good to check, make sure like a known measurement is the same as what it's supposed to be. So for example, I could go down to here, create a length measurement and just test this. So we can see that that is 5990, so we know our scale is correct. You can also set the precision of your measurements. That's just going to control what your output is, how many decimal places it goes to. So let's just go to 1 for today. So about precisions. So I'm going to go through a couple of different measurement tools, what you can create with them, sort of information you can get out of them, and then we'll look at how you save them and everything like that. So first example I'm going to do is just using a basic area. So we're going to use the area tool. We're going to set some area measurement properties. So whenever we're doing takeoffs, obviously we want to label things. We want to know what we're taking off. We want to use that data so we can export it. We don't want to have to continuously find out what things are. If everything's just labeled area measurement as we're going through, we're not really going to know what that is. So the first thing we want to do is label this. So I'm going to use, the first thing I'm going to do is my floor covering. So generally the way I recommend to do your labeling with your measurement tools is your subject is kind of the general group of whatever it is, and then the label is the specific type. So the subject, I'm going to say floor coverings. And my label is carpet type A. I'm not going to set a depth for this. All I want is just my floor covering measurement for this, so I don't need to get any other information from this. What we can do with our area measurements, perimeter measurements, things like that, we can set a depth in them and we can get more information. So we can add things like the wall area into it. We could add a volume and things like that as well. You can even factor in a slope. So if our area goes on a slope, let's say we've got a roof area, for example, and we want to factor in that slope, then we can factor that in as well. So a question from Darren, can you confirm it's recorded? Yes, this is recorded, Darren, and it will be posted later. Cool, okay. So once you've said everything, we can do things like mess with the colors as well. Obviously, we probably want to distinguish between different things on our drawings. It's not going to change the data, but it makes it look a bit prettier. It's a bit easier to see things and see sort of the different tools as well of what we're using. So let's make this one, it's going to be my carpet. So I'm just going to make it blue, for example, and I'm going to set a fill color in there, make it light blue, and I'm going to make it highlight so I can see what's underneath what I pop up on there. My units, I'm just going to check they are displaying in here as well. You can also change them up the top here. You can also put all that depth information in as well. So my units are going to be in square meters, perfect. My length is not going to be very important for this, but it'll be in millimeters if I want it. And then I'm going to draw this carpet measurement. So let's say I just want the carpet in this bedroom. Just going to click around these points. If I hold shift, everything's going to draw a straight line. It's going to snap orthogonally, so 4590, so on. Go. So now I've got my carpet type A. Oops. If you hold shift, you can click and drag the label of a tool and move it without moving the rest of the measurement. You just got to make sure you get over the actual writing so that it doesn't move the whole measurement like it did for me. Something just to be mindful of. Now we've got our carpet type A. We could do the same as we go forward with all of our different ones and create different tools. An even easier way to do it though, once you've created one, so for example, with my floor coverings tool set here, I'm actually just going to delete a couple of these just so I can show you what I can do. Oops. Let's get rid of these. Let's get rid of all of them. So to save this to your tool set, what we can do is you just right click it and add to tool chests, and I'll just put it in my floor coverings one. I'm going to go through how to create these in a minute as well. So first thing to do is, just save it to your tool set. When it goes in there, it's going to go into either properties mode or drawing mode, depending on what you've got it set as. So this has gone in as drawing mode, which means it's going to draw exactly the same as how I've saved it. Obviously, I'm doing takeoffs of different size things and everything like that. So I want to be able to draw it with different shape and size and everything like that. So I'm going to right click this and put it in properties mode, which is going to allow me to draw it with different shapes and sizes and things like that. So cool. when you want to create more of these, so rather than just recreating the tools again and everything like that, what I can do is just duplicate things within my tool sets, change the properties of it, and it'll just continuously build my library. So for these floor coverings, for example, what I can do is just duplicate it and double click in the label here, make this carpet type B, for example. I can, while I've got this selected, if I change the colors, it'll change the color of the tool within the tool set. So let's say I want this to be green now, this one to be green. So you can see it's updating the properties in the tool set there as well. And now I've got a green one and I can draw that. You'll see it's carpet type B. So I could then go and do the rest of my measurements with that. Then I could also continue going and do, let's say I want some wooden floorings, for example. These are all going to be the same type of measurement. They're all just going to be area measurements that I need, for example. So I want this one to be just something. So I want this to be floorboards. Change the color, make it brown, orange. And then I'm just going to do one more, duplicate that again. And this time I'm going to call this one laminate jar. That color. Let's make this one a nice ready color. Cool. So now I've got my floor coverings tool set, built that. Couple of things you'll probably notice when you create a tool set. Let's go through that now. So if I want to create a new tool set, you go to Tool Chest, Manage Tool Sets here, and then we're going to add one. And I'm just going to call this electrical, for example. There's a few settings with toolsets. So if you have a display, it's going to display straight away. Show in all profiles will make it show in all the different profiles you have if you've got different profiles. If you don't select that, it will only show in your current profile that you're using. So sometimes we often get calls that people go, oh, I've lost my tool sets, they're all gone. What's often happened is they've just switched profiles and not realized it, and all their tool sets are just in a different profile. So if we hit OK, it's just going to ask me to save it. I'll save it in this default folder. The default folder for all this is just your app data roaming folder, and it saves all of your tool sets, profiles, and everything like that in here. It's very easy to find if you lose things and stuff like that. Every now and then the software goes a bit nuts and it loses them. It says error loading tool set. You just go and find it in here and import it again, and it will reconnect it. So hit save. I'm just going to replace that. Okay, cool. So now I've got a blank tool set in here. So there's two different modes that a tool set can be within here. So there's symbol mode and detail mode. So let's create a symbol that we're going to use for doing some takeoffs in this as well. So let's go to a different page in here. So in our electrical tool set, we want to get some count tool going for these downlights. So what we're going to do is create a count measurement. Let's just make count measurement something really nice and simple. Let's go to our count tool here. Yeah, the count tool. We'll just place one here. And we're going to just make it a nice simple diamond. It's not going to have a fill in it. Let's see if we can do that. I can. We'll just make it more opaque. That'll do. And we'll make this one. Cool. I can save this to my tool chest again. Add to tool chest, electrical. So you'll see that this one is just the symbol rather than having all these details. So these tool sets are in detail mode. When you create them, usually they go into symbol mode. So if you go into detail, you can see more information about the tool, which is quite useful when you're trying to find what everything is. Obviously, the colors and the symbols, hard to determine what they are. So we go into the count measurement here. I'm just going to call this light fittings. This one is going to be downlight. Cool. So again, we can use the duplication function. Let's say I want to get something for my PowerPoints in here and duplicate this, and we can go PowerPoints, double GPO, for example. And then I can again change the color of it. This one green. I can continue building my library like that. Anytime you do something like that, where you're duplicating tools, creating tools, changing anything within the software in terms of customization, it's really important to go in and save things. If you don't save things, you're not going to keep your tools. You're going to have a very hard time trying to find things when you go in the next time and they're not there. So there's two ways you can do it. If you hit the little gear here again, you can hit save, and that's going to save all of your tool set, but it's only going to save that tool set. If you go to Review, Profiles, and Save Profile, that's going to save all of your tool sets. So you don't need to, you just save your profile. Profiles contain the tool sets. It saves all your tool sets with it. So it's the best way to do it. So that is how we create tool sets and tools to save into them. The best thing to do before you start doing your takeoffs is, the easiest way I would say is if you've got like a pre-built Excel sheet where you can, where you've got all of your items that you take off in there, just go through, create a tool for each item in there, categorize them by what they are within your tool set. So you can find them easily, because obviously we can collapse these. Obviously, I've only got a few tools in here. You guys are going to have a lot more tools in there doing what in a practical situation. So it's going to be a lot more difficult to find things. So you want to be able to collapse tool sets. You want to separate them so that it's nice and easy to do that. But yeah, if you just go through, duplicate them, relabel them as to whatever tools you need, that is the easiest way to do it, I find. Change the colors, things like that. I mean, you don't even need to change the colors realistically. It's just an easy way of distinguishing on your drawings the different things. So yeah. Cool. So now we want to use some of these tools to actually apply our takeoffs. So for example, I want to use my light fittings count to count all my light fittings in here. I've got these down lights that go throughout this building. So there's two ways that we could do this. We could just click our light fittings count tool, go around and find them all. Obviously, it's going to take a little bit of time. We've got to get them all. Some of these are a little bit hard to see. They're a little bit hidden, as you can see there. But eventually we'll get there and we'll find out the correct count. Again and say, is there any more? Can't see any more, looks okay. Oh, there's one more there. Cool. So that's one way of doing our counts. It's really good, particularly if there's a lot of noise in there. It's a really good way, but you can also use the visual search to do this. So visual search is a really good way of making your counts a lot quicker and a lot more simple. So if you go to the search panel, which is this one that looks like a little magnifying glass, you've got two options. You can search for text and you can search visually. If you can search for text, like for example, if your downlights are noted D5 or whatever they are, you could just search for that text. These ones aren't, they've only got a symbol. So I need to search for something visual to find these. So what I can do is go for the visual search, get rectangle, and that's just going to ask me to pick up what I want. So I left click and hold around one of the downlights, and I can pick up my downlight. There's a few different things you can search through. So you can do the whole document, just the current page, all your open documents, your recents, or a whole folder. Depending on what you're doing, you may want to do either current page or current document. I'd be mindful of doing your recents or open documents or a whole folder, just because you never know what you're going to pick up. Sometimes you might pick the wrong folder. Better to just work on what you're working on. So for this example, I'm just going to do the current page because that's where these lights are. The sensitivity will control how sensitive the search is to pick up results. This is a bit of a temperamental function. So if you bring the sensitivity down, it will pick up more results. If you bring it up, it will pick up less results. Sometimes you'll find it won't quite pick up all of your results. Bring the sensitivity down, it generally will pick up more of them. Sometimes you'll find it picks up results that aren't actually there. It picks up things that maybe look a little bit similar as well to the image rather than the actual image. So in that case, just bring your sensitivity up a little bit and it will research and find the correct items usually. So let's bring the sensitivity down for this one and see what it picks up. Different settings here. You can search for multiple rotations. We can filter by color, limit by selection. I'm not 100% sure on what that does. Search through markups. If you've got extra light fittings you've dropped on the drawing, for example, as markups, it will search for those as well. and then search for fine details. So that's going to search for things like that line crossing across it. So if I select that, it's probably not going to find all these light fittings. Hit search, and it's just going to go through and try and find all of those light fittings. You can have a little scroll through your results and see what it's picked up. If you see something that it's obviously not a result, you can unselect that from your count. But I can see it's picked up all the light fittings here. So I just hit this select all button. Go to the check options, which is a little lightning bolt, apply count measurement to checked. I can either use the built-in counts, which are just going to be the default count measurements, or I can use things from my tool sets in here. So these are my light fittings, my downlights. I'm just going to select the downlights and it's going to count them all for me. So that is using the visual search. One thing I would recommend always is to just have a quick look through and just see if you can see any extra ones. Or against this one, I could confirm with the legend, it's got 18 in there. It tells me I have counted 18. So I know that that's done it correctly. But like I said, it's a bit of a temperamental tool. Sometimes you've got to bring the sensitivity up and down, and you just kind of never know whether you've got them all or not. So it's good to be mindful of that. Cool. So that is using the visual search. So everything we're doing in here is all tracked. So we have what's called the markups list. If you're not aware of the markups list or haven't seen it before, if you hover your mouse down the bottom of your screen, you'll see this little blue line pop up. And if you left click and hold and drag that up, you'll pull up your markups list. Markups list basically tracks all of the markups that go onto the document. So it'll be across the whole document, not just a page. So obviously you can see we've got my carpet that I put on the different page. As I click it, it takes me to where that markup is. And it just keeps tracking them across the drawing set. This is where the labeling and everything like that will start becoming really important. Obviously, if I just had everything labeled as area measurement or count measurement, I'm not going to know what anything is as it goes in here. As I group things, it's grouping them based on what I've done. So I'm just going to close this one down and open up my fully finished one that I did. This one here. Cool. So this one has a few more in there. Cool. So you can see I've done some painting measurements. I've done all my floor coverings for this, for example, and I've done all my electrical fittings in here. You'll notice as it's grouping everything together, it's grouping and getting counts of things. So I've currently got it grouped by the subject, which means it's grouping like all the painting stuff together, all the floor coverings together. I probably want it to be a bit more specific than that, and I want it to group it by label. So I could group it by, instead of just floor coverings, I just want the totals of my carpet type A's, my type B's, all my external wall paint, and all of my internal wall paint. Some of them there's obviously only one measurement, so it's not going to give me anything different than what I can see there. Whatever you order it by is what it's going to group by within here, and what it's going to give you totals of at the top of your columns or rows, sorry. Under markups list here, under columns, there's a whole range of different columns you can turn on and off. So you've got subject, label, page label, comments. You can see who did it, when it was done, all the different measurements. So earlier when I said that you could set a depth for an area measurement, and then you could get things like a wall area, for example, we can do that as well. So for example, with my painting, for my internal painting, the way I've done that is it's actually just, not my external walls, sorry, the internal walls, which are down here. The way I've done that is I've just done a perimeter measurement around all of the rooms, and I've set it to give me, put the depth into it to give me the wall area. So that's the function I will need in here as well. Some of these are giving me a wall area and I probably don't want them to. So I can take that depth out of them. Just do that quickly for the sake of what the output's going to give me. Two. So now that looks a little bit better. One more, sorry. Okay, so now we've just got the wall area on the one that I wanted to give me the wall area for. You can turn on the columns as you want to. So generally you want to keep it as nice and simple as possible. So you may choose to have like the author on if you want your exports to have who's done these on there. You may choose to have things like the date on there when they were done, that kind of thing. You might have the page on there as well if that was necessary, if you were doing it on a big document set. For this case, all I'm going to have on is what I've got turned on now. So my subject, label, comments. I could actually turn off the comments, probably don't need those. Comments is just either like you could put individual comments on there, or it's just going to pick up the text of what's in a text box on anything. So the labels, things like that, or the measurement number as well. In this case, the measurement, what the measurement column is going to give you is whatever the actual measurement tool is. So if you're using an area measurement, it's going to give you the area. If you're using a count measurement, it's going to give you the count. If you're using a perimeter measurement, it's going to give you that perimeter measurement in there. Hence why I've had to turn on the wall area column for that one there. So there's quite a different range of things you can do with this. You can filter things. You can, so you can filter out different markups and everything like that. If you just want to see your painting, for example, you can just filter to your painting. You can save filter configurations as well. So if I get rid of that one and I want to save this, so I just want to save this as my painting. Now, if I come back on different drawings, I can go back to my filter configuration, painting. That's just going to show me my painting. And that will stay in there as you go. So you could filter out to all of your different things, your electrical tools, for example, all of that sort of stuff. You can search through markups. Obviously, as you're doing your takeoffs, you're going to have a lot more than what I have in here. So yeah, you can search through things and find them, and that's easier. And if you want to hide your markups, if you want to actually look at your drawing again, you can just hide them and turn them back on as well. And let's turn off my filter for now. Go back to normal. You can also import and export markups. So if you get a new revised file come in, you want to export your existing markups and import them onto the other one, you can also do that through here as well. An even easier way of doing that, though, is just copying and pasting to the same location. To do that, you would just copy, select everything. So you could do that from within the markups list. Control-A will select everything. Control-C will copy. And then if you go to your new document, so let's, for example, go to my blank one that I had before, and Control-Shift-V, and it will paste everything. And it's done on one page, so we wouldn't do it like that. We'd have to do it page by page. So in this case, where I've got things on multiple pages, you would be better off exporting them. But let's say I just want to export this page. I'd select everything on this page. Control-C to copy them. Then go to the same page, Control-Shift-V, and that will paste things in the same location. You can also get summaries of your captures if you've attached images to markups as well. But yeah, the other thing you can do in here is create custom columns as well. So under columns, we've got manage columns. And in here we can create custom columns. I'm not going to do a huge amount on this, particularly for takeoffs. The reason is because generally anyone who's doing takeoffs will usually be better off using like Excel or something like that to do like all of your complicated formulas and things like that. It's a little bit difficult to do things that are complicated in here. I'm mostly just going to touch on it because there is an option to do it. If you're doing quite simple takeoffs, like for example, you're just doing counts or you're just doing area measurements for one particular thing, this can be useful, or it's good to assign custom kind of information to a thing. For example, I did some training with someone a couple of days ago, and they had an example where they might have these light fittings. However, some light fittings have connections to 4 different things. So they need to be able to define how many light fittings there are, but also the fact that they have 4 connections. So you could create a custom column to assign that information. So you go to Manage Columns, Custom Columns, Add, and there's a few different options you can do. You can have a check mark. So this could be useful, like if you want your installers to check things off, for example, as they've installed them. You could set a check mark and they could check everything off as they go. You could have a choice, which will allow you to create a drop down of options and items. So this is really good. If you want to go really far with takeoffs within Bluebeam, you can actually create all those formulas. It's just a lot more difficult, but this is a good way of assigning materials. You can assign a value to those materials, which would be your cost per whatever it is. If you put something in the subject, it means that item will only pop up if the subject of the markup is assigned as that. And yep, so that's that one. Then we've got dates, formulas. Formulas are just expressions, so they're based on whatever variables are in there. So you could do your measurement, for example, your area multiplied by something. You can multiply it by a custom column if you need to. You can also turn it into a currency, so it'll give you a dollar value, which will give you your costings and things like that. For this example, I'm not going to do that because I think the other way to do it is much better, but we'll just close this out for now. Cool. So the next thing we're going to do is export this markups list. So there's a couple of different ways you can export it. This little button here is the summary button. You can either do a CSV summary, an XML summary, or a PDF summary. The main one we're going to focus on in this is the CSV summary. The PDF summary, what it's going to give you is just like a PDF linked with all a little image of the markup and the information assigned to the markup. When we're doing takeoffs, obviously we want to be able to manipulate our data. We want to bring it into formulas to create costings and things like that. So a CSV is probably going to be easier to do that. So we'll go to the CSV. There's a few different options of what you can do in here. By default, it's only going to have the columns turned on in here that you have turned on in your markups list, but you can turn on more for your output if you want to as well. You can filter things from within here again as well, and we can control a little bit about how the output comes out. So we can either have the markups, the totals, or just the markups and totals. So what that means is we can either have just the individual markups and their values, or we can have just the totals, which are the bold rows. So just the totals of whatever we've got it ordered by, just the external walls total, the downlights total, the GPOs or whatever it is, which may be useful depending on what you're doing. Or you could have the markups and the totals. I'm going to do that one so I can show you what both look like. This example, and I'm just going to hit OK. It's going to export to this folder here, whatever that one is. It's just a folder that I put in. You probably would want this to go into whatever folder is for your project, so you might want to go in and change that as well. And it's just going to call it an Excel file of the same name as whatever the PDF is as well. You can have it include the measurement units or not, and a few different things in there as well. So we'll hit OK. And let me bring this across once it pops up for me. This one here. Cool. This is what it will look like. It's going to give me that wall area for my wall area. That out a bit, make it a bit easier to see. Cool. So you'll see how we've got some of these rows with something in brackets. So that's that totals row. So that's going to be the totals of all your carpet type A, and then it gives me the individual markup. Totals of carpet type B gives me the individual markup underneath. The external walls is a good way to see it because it's got 6 of them. So you see it gives you the total measurement of all of the external walls measurements in there as well. So now I could take these values out, probably my totals values generally, pop them into my takeoff sheet, which might look something like this one, for example. So I might want to bring these across. So if let's bring these up next to each other. So yeah, I might want to bring across my carpet type A. I can copy this one into here. Copy the unit as well. Bring my external walls across. And so on and so forth. And then we can eventually get to our takeoffs done. So that's the export. There is a really cool way that we can link. Rather than having to export these, we can actually just link an Excel file to our PDF so that we don't have to translate the data. We don't have to rely on human error. Like imagine if I went to move this out and I accidentally copied this across, we'd be fairly out with what our paint is, which would not be too good. So what we can use is something called quantity link. This is a function that is only in the extreme version or the complete version if you're on the new subscription. Anyone who had a previous perpetual license that's transitioned to subscription has complete now and has access to this function. If you don't have complete, or you don't have, if you're on the old versions and still have standard or CAD or something like that, let us know. We can help you get to this if you want to. If you're on core, it's a little bit more difficult, but still, if you do want this, let me know and we can work out how we can do it. So what quantity link will do is basically link a cell to a value within Bluebeam. So let me close this one down, and I'm just going to close this down. So let's say I want to export from here, my carpets, everything's just straight into the Excel. I just want to live link it. What I'm going to do is, if I've just done all my markups on here, the first thing I'm going to do is save the file. So let's save this file into wherever it is. Then I'm going to go to my Excel file, apologies. Here, go to my Excel file, and I'm just going to delete off those things that I copied across. This is my really basic takeoff sheet that's just got some formulas that calculates cost per item. Doesn't have anything other than that in there, but you guys obviously will have a lot more. What I can do is right click the cell that I want to bring the item into. I go to create, and then I can add. This is where I select the file. So I've got my marked up file here. Hit OK. Now I'm going to tell it what I want in here. So I want the total area of label carpet type A. OK. It links that into there. I can go through and do this for all of them. So for example, my wall paint, I'm going to go link, create, measurement, wall area for this one, and it's going to be internal walls. And I can go through and do that for everyone. And basically what it's doing is it's just linking my Excel file to my takeoff. And if I go into here, and let's say I put some more measurements, I'm just going to do something nice and random so you can see them. Let's say I get my carpet type A, and I pop some more of these in there. You'll notice on the Excel sheet, it's live and dynamic. So it's updating as I add these measurements in there. So what I can do, the cool thing about this, obviously you wouldn't want to have to link that every single time you do it. So what you do is basically you can link everything and then save that file. And then all you're doing is changing your source PDF. So if I close this down, let's not save those things I just added. And I'm going to go back to another file here somewhere, this one here. So this is one I prepared earlier. I've linked all of these cells to their particular measurements within there. You see the quantities are 0. So what I've done is I've taken the source file out for now. So I just go to source files in here, and I can go add, go find my marked up file, and open. Okay, and it's just going to straight away import all of the markups in there for me. So what I would generally probably do is just have a template for my my Excel file with all of the links created. Every time I start a new project, save that template into the project file as whatever it is, and then just do all my markups and link it straight to there. You're taking out a lot of human error. You're probably speeding up that process massively by doing this. The important thing to remember is this relies on you having all of those tools set up in your tool chest, relies on all of this matching what you need in your Excel sheet, which is why before when I mentioned creating the tools, I would say the good way to do it is to go through all of the items you have that you might need to take off and create a tool for it. Whether you do it regularly or not, it's good to have it all there so that when you do this, you can create all of your links. You can spend a little bit of time doing it. We do also offer this as a service if you do want assistance with it. Basically, all we need is something like this. We can go through and create the tools as what they need to be for you, link it all, send it back to you basically. So yeah, if you don't have time to set it up, which a lot of people don't, which is where this sort of gets missed a lot of the time, however, it could speed up your work a lot, let us know because we can help with that as well. Cool, so that is using the quantity link. So like I said, that's only in the extreme or complete versions. If you don't have those, you won't have access to that quantity link function in Excel. If you don't, let me know if you do want it because we can help. Okay, so that is most of the content. Quickly as well, I did set something up that I didn't put in the agenda, which I want to go through if I had time. So let me just bring that up. So when we're doing these takeoffs, obviously, if you look at this here, it's getting quite busy. It's hard to see some of the things in here. Like for example, it's very difficult for me to see my ceiling paint versus what everything else is. So what we can do is use layers to categorize things. So I've got in here under the layers panel, which is these two, that looks like two pieces of paper on top of each other. I've set up a couple of layers. When you do this, what you can do is turn on and off the layers, which just basically hides the markups within those layers. So you can just see, for example, just my painting. So now I can actually see my ceiling paint, though the title is a little bit hard to read. I can just see my internal wall paint and everything like that in there. Or I can turn these all off and just see my drawing again, same as when I was hiding the markups. When you're using layers, there's a few different ways you can use them, a few different ways you can assign markups to layers as well. You can right-click a layer and set it as the markup layer. What that means is anything that you then add to the drawing will go into that layer until you turn it off from being the markup layer. Or you can assign markups to a layer post completing them. So if I go into here and I select a few different markups, it'll let me, let's just say I go into, I'll do it for my markups just because there's markups on top of markups in here, which is making it a little bit difficult. So let's say I want to assign all of these floor coverings. I can right click them, go to layer, and then I can also assign them to my floor coverings. They're obviously already assigned currently, but or I could create a new layer to assign them to as well. You can also add child layers to a layer. So for example, if I wanted to specify my floorings a little bit more, so I could go add a new layer, add a child to this, and I could go carpet. Oops. Add another child layer, floorboards, for example, and keep adding it. And then I could categorize those a bit better. So I could go back into my markups list again, assign my carpets to carpet, and assign my my wooden flooring to the wood floor. Cool. So yeah, just a little bit extra on layers there. It's really good just to be able to turn things on and off, particularly like if you're doing a lot of takeoffs. I've seen it a lot where the drawing gets very busy. It's very difficult to see certain things and that kind of thing. So it just helps you categorize them a little bit better. You can lock layers so they can't be turned off and things like that as well. You can choose whether they print or not, whether they export or not as well. So the only problem with layers is you do have to set it up drawing by drawing. There's no way to save a configuration of them to import into new drawings, unfortunately. It would be quite useful, but unfortunately it's not possible. You'll also find in here as well, sometimes when you get a drawing, it'll already have a heap of layers in there before you've done any markups. What that means is whoever's exported those drawings from the drawing program, whether it's AutoCAD or whatever, just has predefined layers. So things like you might be able to turn off things like the furnishings or the bathroom items because it'll be categorized into layers, and you can actually turn off some PDF content within those layers. Or if you just want to get rid of them and just have your markup layers, you can actually just delete those layers without deleting the layer content as well. Okay, guys, so that's the end of the content. I'm just going to set everyone to be able to speak, and feel free to unmute yourself. If anyone has any questions, if you just want to pop them in the chat, go for it as well. I will got another 15 minutes or so we can hang around and answer questions if anyone has any. Feel free to unmute yourself if you have any questions. We got any in the chat? Got a question from here. Is it possible to link toolsets directly to an Excel sheet? When you say toolsets, what do you mean by that? So do you want to link just the actual toolset straight to the Excel to do the quantity link? If you've got a mic, yeah, feel free to unmute yourself and we can find out what you want to get to. Yes, okay. No, so to do the quantity, you have to link individual markups. There's no way to just link a tool set directly to an Excel sheet. Any other questions from anyone at all? With export link to Excel, can you link clips like in PDF? Do you mean the little images? Yeah, okay. I don't think you can in an Excel. Let me have a quick look. Yeah, I don't think you can. Nah, there's no way to create thumbnails in there. That's just a part of the PDF summary, unfortunately. What you can do though, is you can, this is a bit of an interesting one. You can create a PDF summary. You can change your style of your PDF summary to a table. You get something that looks like this. And then what you can do, so obviously you get your little images, your thumbnails in there. You can make those bigger as well. I think they're on the smaller setting at the moment. And then you can export this file to an Excel file. It's a little workaround for it. I can just do, I would just do a page region. I'm going to select this. Open. Yeah, the only problem is that, yeah, it's put the images in its own little row. So yeah, it's not perfect that way. So yeah, that is a little workaround. Sometimes I've got the export to look better than that in the past. Someone else had asked me how they could do that previously. You can get the images to line up and it does work okay. It's just, it takes a little bit of playing around with the export and you get the region right and things like that so that it goes nicely. But yeah, so you can create your PDF summary into a table is the best way. Thanks, Peter. Any other questions for anyone?
What sort of cost
Yes.
for a one-on-one training session to set up the specifics?
So it kind of depends. So training generally, that'd be probably more of like a consulting kind of service rather than training really. Training, like if you want to go through proper fundamentals training, it's generally $200 per person. Services, it really depends on the time generally. Usually we charge 150 plus GST per hour. For creating tools, setting up these customizations and things like that. So yeah, so it kind of depends on the requirements. Usually if you want to look at that, Darren, just shoot me an email and we can discuss it offline.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks.
Cool.
And can you, one of my questions is when you've done your takeoff, can you transfer that to the actual drawing itself? And I probably asked you that before. My apologies.
What do you mean by that? So
if you go where your drawing is, you've done a takeoff at the bottom.
Yeah.
That information at the bottom there to transfer it onto the drawing.
So you mean the markups list down here?
Yeah. Yeah. So
yeah.
it's shown on there.
What you can do is create a legend. So let's say I just want to create it for this page here. Just right click and I can go create a legend here, create new legend. It just has a default setting. You can actually, what you can do is customize these as well. So you go into the properties here, say this call this my takeoffs, for example. I can edit the columns that are in there as well. Let's say I want my label to go in there. Label up a bit so I can see it. This is a dynamic legend as well, so if you start adding things, it will group them by different things. I actually want probably my subject to be, sorry, my description to be the label.
Carpet type A, carpet type B, etc. That data there to be transferred onto the drawing.
Yeah, so that's what we're doing here. See on the drawing here?
Oh yeah, okay.
So you're creating a legend, yeah. So yeah, that's the way you would do it, yeah.
Thank you.
No worries. Any other questions from anyone? So this session's all been recorded as well. Once it's all processed and uploaded, we'll upload it to YouTube, and I'll also send out a link to everyone who has attended and anyone who missed it as well. So yeah, feel free to keep an eye out for that if you want to go back over anything. If anyone does have any detailed questions about it, anything like that, feel free to shoot me an email. My email is just alex@advancedspatial.com.au. So yeah, feel free to reach out anytime. If you have any questions, want me to go over anything again, happy to. So. Just got any more questions in here? There is also, I'll show you quickly, some downloadable tool sets you can get. Some of them are pretty useless for takeoffs, unfortunately. Just show you where they are, just in case anyone wants to have a look at them. There is some mechanical tool sets, plumbing fixtures, things like that, electrical tool sets. What you can do is, if you want to, you can download these tool sets, you can convert those items to counts, and then you can use those to place over your counts and things like that. Just be careful of like the estimation tool sets. As you can see, everything's in feet, which is not ideal in Australia, obviously, and the majority of the world. But all these tool sets are created by Americans in America, so that's how we get them, unfortunately. But yeah, if anyone wants this, I'll just pop this into the chat up here. Feel free to grab that link if you want to explore it. There's a few other things in here as well. There's also like custom stamps you can create, some JavaScript stamps as well, which we can customize if you need, a couple of profiles and things like that as well. So have a look in there if you want to. Any other questions from anyone at all? Welcome, Darren. I'll hang around for a couple more minutes in case anyone thinks of any questions, but thanks for joining, everyone. Yeah, like I said, this has been recorded and we will send out a link to it if anyone wants to go back over it. Feel free to. And if you have any questions, feel free to jump on. That link gives you an error, does it, Peter? Okay, that's interesting. Try something. Oh, that's because I didn't copy it with the S on the end of it. Hang on, let me pop that in the chat. Missing the S. Try that one. All right, guys. Doesn't sound like anyone else has any questions. So yeah, thanks for joining. I'm just going to close this off now. If anyone thinks they have any questions later, just shoot me an email. I'm happy to answer them. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Cheers. I'll drop you an email.
Sounds good. Thanks, Aaron.
Right. Cheers. Thanks. Bye.